Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Sunday, September 24th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Jose Butto and Christopher Sanchez are your starters. I know the Phillies are hitting righties well in the last month, but I got to say, Jose Butto has pitched pretty well for this season overall for the Mets, a 3.09 ERA. Pretty small sample size, but as of late, his last two games, the Mets won both of those games 7-4 and 2-1 over teams fighting in the National League wildcard race in the Diamondbacks and Marlins. He went 11 innings combined, giving up earning 13 strikeouts and only giving up 2 earned runs with no home runs given up. He's only given up 1 home run in 32 innings this season. I think there's value back in the Mets with Butto on the mound. Sanchez coming off not his best outing. He only went about 4 innings in that game. And the Mets, even though at the beginning of the season were one of the worst lineups against lefties, they've improved those numbers. A pretty low strikeout rate, decent walk rate, and decent OPS and isolated power numbers. So I'm going to take the New York Mets here on the money line on the road. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Yusei Kikuchi and Taj Bradley are your starters. Taj Bradley's been more than good enough for the Rays in the last month. In the month of September thus far, he's gone 4 outings, so 21 innings, 25 strikeouts. The Rays are 4-0 in those games. He has a solid 4.29 ERA, not too bad for somebody more towards the end of your rotation. And the Rays won 3 of those 4 games by more than 2 runs. So Bradley's in decent form. Kikuchi, a lefty, facing a tough Rays lineup. It's hit lefties pretty well. Kikuchi's been pretty inconsistent in the last 5 starts or so. He pitched well against the Yankees last time out, but he only went 5 innings. Before that, he gave up 6 earned runs to the Texas Rangers in a blowout loss. A couple starts before that, he struggled against the Rockies and the Guardians. Give me the Tampa Bay Rays here, Tropicana Field on the money line. Next up, we go to Fenway Park as the White Sox take on the Red Sox. Mike Clevenger and Cutter Crawford are your starters. Now, when I saw the pitching matchups in this series, this was the game that I thought the White Sox had the best chance at winning, maybe even just covering the run line. Clevenger's been their best starter in the second half of the year overall this season as well. He's at a solid 3.42 ERA. He's in good form his last 3 games, giving up 2 earned runs or fewer, 7 strikeouts plus in each of those games. The White Sox are 3-2 in his last 5 starts. It was a surprise because at the beginning of the season, he wasn't in the best of form, and the expected numbers also weren't great, but he's pitched really well for Chicago down the stretch, and Cutter Crawford's been very inconsistent for Boston. I don't love him when he's pitching at Fenway Park, a very hitter-friendly ballpark. This season, a 6.1 ERA at home, 0-4 record in 51 2/3 innings. So give me the White Sox here on the run line and the money line on the road. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Kyle Gibson for Baltimore, no official starter for the Guardians, but I do think Tristan McKenzie could be returning for this game. And he wasn't the sharpest in his rehab outing, went 3 2/3 innings, only a couple strikeouts, gave up some earned runs and a walk as well. I'm going to take the over in this game. 2 solid lineups we saw in the second game of this series, 9-8 final score. Gibson's not really in the best of form. He's given up a lot of sharp contact lately, at least 1 home run in each of his last 5 starts, and 3 of his last 4 starts have gone well over the total, 9-5, 10-3, and 10-5, those final scores. I think we see some offense early and often in this game. Give me the over. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Freddie Peralta and Edward Cabrera as your starters. Now, we saw the same pitching matchup back on September 12th, and that was a 3-1 Brewers win in that game. Both pitchers were solid, but I do think Peralta certainly had the better outing. I mean, he went 6 1/3 innings of 1-run ball with no walks and 9 strikeouts. Cabrera only gave up 2 runs, but he only went 4 1/3 innings because he gave up 6 walks in that game. So the control was off, and we've seen the control be off for him at times this season. I mean, 60 walks in 91 innings of work this year. I trust Peralta more, even though he's on the road in this game. I also trust the Brewers' bullpen and lineup, honestly, more in this matchup as well. So I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers on the money line on the road. Next up, the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to see Brandon Williamson for Cincinnati, no official starter for Pittsburgh. I say why not take a shot with the Buccos in this game. This team's playing pretty well down the stretch. They're playing the role of spoiler. Brandon Williamson's not really my favorite starting pitching option to back. He doesn't really miss a lot of bats. And as of late, he's given up 8 earned runs in his last 8 innings of work. And the Reds are 1-4 in his last 5 starts. So I do think Cincinnati's a slightly better team overall. But the Pirates are a decent bullpen. Their lineup's actually playing well in the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line on the road. Next up, the Minnesota Twins hosting the Los Angeles Angels. Tyler Anderson for Los Angeles, and we should see Joe Ryan for Minnesota. Now, the Twins clinched the AL Central, and they don't have a ton to play for anymore. Some small seeding benefits in the American League playoff bracket, but the Angels haven't had a lot of play for in quite a while, and this team's just not playing good in general. Tyler Anderson's battling a little bit of an injury. That's not great. He hasn't been great on the road this season, even though he's been better in the second half of the year. I still don't trust him, and this Angels bullpen, we talked about it all season long, how they have struggled. Joe Ryan's been solid at home this season. His last start wasn't his best, but that was on the road at Great American. Back at Target Field here with a 3.77 ERA on the season. Give me the Twins on the run line at Target Field. Next up, the Kansas City Royals taking on the Houston Astros. No official starter for KC, but Hunter Brown should be going for Houston. So the Royals take the first game of this series. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but I say why not take a shot with Kansas City here? This team's played a lot better in the second half of the season. They already took a series against this Astros team early, not too long ago, about last week at Kauffman Stadium. And Hunter Brown has not been good at Minute Maid Park this year. We saw him struggle yet again. His last game against the Orioles, 7 earned runs and 2 home runs in that game. He has an ERA above 6 at Minute Maid Park this season. The Royals have solid numbers against righties in the last month, in the second half in general. And the Royals bullpen, it's probably going to be a bullpen game here, has actually been better as of late than it was. It was much better than it was at the beginning of the year. So give me the over and the Royals in this one. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Colorado Rockies. Ty Blach and Javier Assad are your starters. I know the Rockies' bats aren't great away from Coors Field, but I still like the over in this game. I think the Cubs win this game, but I just don't see a lot of value with Chicago, so I'm going to take the over. Assad's got a 3.04 ERA, but a 4.9 expected ERA, almost 2 runs higher, 4.47 xFIP. There's some regression concerns there. I think the Rockies will be able to get some runs on them. Ty Blach's got an ERA almost at 6 on the road this season. He's actually been worse on the road than at Coors Field. The Cubs lineup should be able to get to him as well. This Rockies bullpen, one of the worst bullpens in baseball this season. Give me the over here. Next up, the Seattle Mariners taking on the Texas Rangers. Brian Wu and Nathan Eovaldi are your starters. Now, Brian Wu made his Major League debut against these Texas Rangers at Globe Life Field back on June 3rd. He really struggled in that game. It was 2 innings of 7 hits, 6 earned run baseball, and the Rangers have really good numbers against right-handed pitching in the last month. I'm worried a little bit about Wu in this game. He's been a little bit better at T-Mobile Park this season, an ERA above 4 on the road. Nathan Eovaldi doesn't really pitch deep into ball games, so that's why I'm going to take the Texas Rangers in the first 5 innings. I don't love this Rangers bullpen, but Eovaldi's been pretty solid as of late. At least he's a game manager, recently. He's got the Rangers are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. So give me the Rangers on the first 5 innings on the money line. Next up, the Detroit Tigers taking on the Oakland Athletics. J.P. Sears and Eduardo Rodriguez are your starters. I know the A's snapped their losing streak against Detroit in the second game of this series, but I still can't take the A's in this game. Eduardo Rodriguez, a left-handed pitcher facing an Oakland A's team that we saw earlier in this series, face a lefty in Tarek Skubal. They really struggled there, and in the last month, very bad numbers offensively against lefties. The Tigers have really good numbers. They're 4th in baseball in isolated power against lefties in the last month. They're 4th in team OPS. Their strikeout rate's pretty low, and their walk rate's above 11%. Facing a lefty in J.P. Sears, I like the Tigers in this game on the run line. Next up, the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the San Diego Padres. Drew Rom and Michael Wacha are your starters. San Diego could be playing its best baseball of the year. We'll see what the final score is for Saturday night's game. But, the Padres on a big-time win streak going into Saturday. And, they have, according to ESPN, going into Saturday, a 1.1% chance to make the playoffs, which is a lot higher than it was about a month ago. And, Drew Rom has not been great this season, a 6.92 ERA. Pitched well against the Orioles back on September 13th. But then his last start against the Brewers struggled again, 6 base hits and 5 earned runs in a 7-3 Brewers win. I like San Diego here. I think the offense is good enough. Michael Wacha's been sharp at Petco Park this year. Pitched well there in his last start, 5 innings, 2 runs against the Rockies in a run line win, 11-9. Give me the Padres laying the 1.5 runs at Petco Park. And your final game for Sunday Night Baseball, it's going to be the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. No official starter for San Francisco. Lance Lynn going for Los Angeles. I just don't trust this Giants lineup here. I know the bullpen's been solid. Could be a bullpen game for San Fran, but this Dodgers lineup is just too strong for me. Lance Lynn's got an ERA just below 6, but he's been better as a Los Angeles Dodger. His last 2 games, the Dodgers won those games and covered the run line with ease. It was an 8-3 and 11-2 blowout wins. I think Lynn's good enough here. This Giants lineup against righties, against lefties in the second half of the season, just not good enough. Give me the Dodgers laying the 1.5 runs to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.